wants to be a kingdom influencer? All right, we're at a GPA conference. You probably thought I meant hitting a rank, right? That's a good thing to do too. You definitely want to do that. But I'm talking about a different kind of influencer today. I'm talking about the kind of influencer that when you show up, darkness flees. That when you speak, captives are set free. Who wants to be that kind of a kingdom influencer? You wouldn't be here today if you weren't passionate about the kingdom. So today you're going to learn one important step that you can do today to get started as a kingdom influencer. Are you ready to get started? But before I share that with you, let me share with you how I discovered this. You see, it all started when I was in my 20s and I was in ministry with my husband. And we had just gone through a course, brought a group of students through a course, and we were celebrating them. It was their graduation. And my husband just finished his speech, and unplanned and without any warning to me, he said, "Lisa, why don't you say a few words?" And I look at him, and I froze. Have you ever had someone put you on the spot to speak and you just froze? Like, I'm talking full-on body paralysis. In fact, if you had been sitting next to me that day, you would have seen my face turn beet red, and then my neck get all blotchy all the way down my chest. You know what I'm talking about? And you know when you're so nervous that you feel sick to your stomach, you just want to pass out? Well, even though my body and my mind were protesting that day, my heart was yearning to say something that made a difference in the lives of these students, and I couldn't. You see, I had lost my voice. I even knew where I had lost it. It was when I was 7 years old, and I was standing at the foot of this hospital bed, looking at this woman whose face was so badly bruised and swollen that she was actually unrecognizable until she spoke. And then I knew it was my mom. You see, my dad was an alcoholic, and he used to get really violent. And here was one of the times that my mom ended up in the hospital. So imagine yourself as a little 7-year-old girl trying to figure out what is going on. And that day I made a decision. I made a decision that it's not safe for a woman to speak. Have you ever made a decision like that? Have you ever made any decisions that you realized years later that it was holding you back from being the kind of influencer that God wanted you to be? Well, that was me. At that banquet, I realized that decision was holding me back from fulfilling the call of God on my life. So even though that was a terrifying moment, it became a turning point moment where I made another decision. I made a decision, I'm going to take my voice back. And then I went on a journey to learn how to use that voice. And I sought out mentors, and I began to share my story, and I became convinced that I was meant to speak. I was meant to speak. I was meant to be on the stage. I was meant to share my story. But then a funny thing happened. Let me know if this ever happens to you. I began to look around, and I saw all these amazing speakers, like gurus, experts, ministers, and even some who had a story similar to mine. Ever happened to you? You thought, well, why do I need to share my story? They are doing a far better job than I'm doing. Like, why would I need to share my story? Surely there's only room for one. And then I heard a crazy story. Do you want to hear a crazy story? So I heard this story about these musicologists, and they had found a way to assign musical pitches to DNA, to make musical compositions. Did you know that your DNA and my DNA are 99% the same and only 1% different? Less than 1%, actually. Say 1%. That's what makes you unique, that 1%. So these musicologists decided to put that 1% DNA to music and created what is known today as a unique life song based on your 1% DNA. So there was this family. The father decided, hey, I'm going to give my family a gift. I'm going to send off their DNA and get their musical compositions back. In this family was this little 6-year-old boy. And if you have boys, girls do this too, but more boys. They run around, they bang, bang, bang. Well, this little boy would run around and he would bang, bang, bang on the piano and run off every day. When his musical composition came back, guess what they found? Not only was it in the instrument of the piano, it also contained the exact 3 and 4 notes that he would bang on the piano every day. So what seemed like random noise was actually his life song yearning to be expressed. What's inside of you that's yearning to be expressed? What's inside of you that needs to come out? Look at your neighbor and say, what's inside of you that needs to come out? So to be a kingdom influencer, you need to own your story. You need to use your voice. But you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, Lisa, okay, that's fine. But really, what difference can one voice make? Shall I give you an example? I'll give you 3. So the first one, you all know the story, the Samaritan woman. She's the woman who met Jesus at the well. And in an instant, her life was transformed. It was so changed. She went back to her city, a city that had shunned her and risked rejection, shame, and she told them what happened to her. What difference did it make? The whole city got changed. She became the first evangelist to the non-Jewish world. Then there's Mary Magdalene. You remember Mary Magdalene? We often, her beginning is a little bit of a controversy. But you see, God doesn't fixate on her beginning. He focuses on the becoming. The enemy wants you to fixate at your beginning, but God say, no, I want you to focus on your becoming. So Mary Magdalene was the first to show up at the tomb when Jesus was resurrected. She was the first witness. The only problem is, in that culture, a woman's voice was not valid. Her witness was not valued. But guess what Jesus said? Mary, go, tell the other disciples that I am risen. So she took and she ran. And because of her using her voice, not only did she elevate the status of women in her culture, her name is written up as a voice of influence. Now there's the others, the famous 5. At least that's what I like to call them. Have you heard about them in Numbers 27? 5 sisters whose father had died. In that culture, the inheritance of the land got passed to the sons. The only problem is they didn't have any brothers. So together with humility and boldness, they came before Moses and they said, Moses, why should our father's land be passed on to someone else? Why can't it come to us? Because they were facing destitution. Moses took their case before God. Guess what God did? He not only ruled in their favor, he changed the law to protect women in the future who found themselves in that situation. So what difference can one voice make? One voice can change a city. One voice can change a culture. One voice can change the laws of the land. The question is, what difference can your voice make? The only way you're going to find out? Use it. So if you're ready to get started today, I want you to stand up, put your hand on your chest, say, I have a unique voice. I have a unique story that needs to be heard. And today, I decide it's going to be heard because I'm becoming a kingdom influencer. And when you do, together, we can change the world.